Dynasty Warriors 9. This franchise has been around for a long time. Of course, the Dynasty Warriors games made by Koei, they have a very long history with slash 'em up and beat 'em up games, dating all the way back to the PlayStation 2. Recently, they've converted a lot of other types of games like Zelda and Fire Emblem into the Dynasty Warriors style formula. But we're finally getting back to the company's roots with another version of Dynasty Warriors. The first game released on the newest generation of consoles. Does this game have what it takes to continue the series' storied history and please new fans as well as old? Hey everybody, this is ArcFlash of ArcFlash Gaming. Keep it locked right here for reviews of all the newest upcoming games. We'll talk about all kinds of current things going on in the industry today. And we'll also look at some of your favorite franchises and characters in the history of gaming with some retrospectives and try to figure out why we love them as much as we do. And so guys, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy content like this and more. So let's take a look at Dynasty Warriors 9 and figure out if it has what it takes to keep the franchise moving forward. Hey everybody, well, apologies for not getting this out a little bit sooner. I know the game's been out for a couple of weeks already. But after seeing some of the other reviews on this game, I really wanted to give it a chance. I know we have people on both ends of the spectrum, ones that absolutely cannot stand it, and others that really like it. I don't really see a lot of people in the middle of this. So I really wanted to give the game a chance and take some time with it and try not to judge it too quickly. There are definitely a lot of new things in this game that longtime series vets will probably not like very much. Unless, of course, you're one of those veterans that's looking for a change, then you may like some of these changes. But just to give you a quick history of my experience with the franchise, I've been playing it since Dynasty Warriors 2. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. I love beat 'em ups, I love slash 'em ups. I've played Streets of Rage, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Final Fight back in the day. These games I've been playing since the PlayStation 2. Now my personal favorites in the series would have to be probably Dynasty Warriors 3, just because it was such a huge improvement over 2. And Dynasty Warriors 4, I enjoyed the music in that one a lot. I enjoyed the creative character. I love the new characters that were introduced. Jotai's the man. And so this game, it's one of the most divisive Dynasty Warriors games that I've seen in a long, long time. Not in a while have I seen so many people split on one side of the fence or the other. So I'm doing my best to try to look at this game objectively. What's good about it? What's bad about it? There's a lot of bad things, but there are some good things too. The main question is it good enough for you guys to buy? And that's what we're going to get into as we go along. So let's get into the two biggest changes of this version of Dynasty Warriors and why people are so split on this one. The first thing we'll talk about is the combat. So the biggest change to the combat is instead of having a sort of dial-a-combo system like you had in all the older games where you had combinations of square and triangle in the PlayStation version, for example, to do different combinations of attacks, this one has a system called the state combo system. And so in this one, you're basically trying to get the enemy into 3 different kinds of states, which would be a juggle, a stun, or toppling or downing the enemies. And while you do have your basic combo string still by just mashing square over and over, triangle is basically just a single move use now unless you get the enemy into a certain state. So what the states mean is, if you're seeing me here on the screen, you're seeing a window pop up once in a while, and what I'm doing there is I'm putting the enemy into, say, a juggle state. If you put him in a juggle state, then you hit square, it will do different attacks. If you put him in a stun state and then hit square, you'll do different attacks, and finally downing them, different attacks. You can also use this, I believe it's a very small portion of your Mizzou gauge to do an elemental attack as well without actually doing a Mizzou attack. But the other 3 mainly are going to be the ones that you're going to use a lot to put the enemy into different states. So in a way, it's kind of a free flow combo system because you have the ability to do different states at different times, so you can put the enemy into a juggle state, hit the ground, and then put them into a downed or stun state right away. You can attach different elements to different weapons states, and that'll give you the ability to have a lightning attack with one state and then a fire attack with another, or whatever element you decide to attach to it. So that's easily one of the biggest changes. If you're used to the old dial-a-combo system, you're unfortunately going to have to adjust to this new system, like it or not. In a way, I'd say it's almost closer to Samurai Warrior system than Dynasty Warriors, but it's not really like either one. Now, the biggest issue I'd say that I have with this, and you can see me doing it a few times, is you'll see the Y button appear above their heads once in a while, and pretty much what that means is once you get the enemy down to 1 life bar, you just hit Y and you instantly kill them. So it's basically enemies have multiple life bars now a lot of the time. The stronger enemies in general do. And a lot of times now it's just beat them down to their last life bar, hit Y, instantly kill them, and move on to the next enemy. I'm personally not a huge fan of that. It almost makes every battle feel like a quick time event. That intense rush you get as you're beating the enemy soldier down, especially on a harder difficulty setting, you're both on low health and you finally overcome him and beat him. That's all gone because you just need to get him down to a certain point in his life, hit Y, and he's dead, and you just run to the next guy. And that also works in cases where they're about to attack you. You just hit Y, and then you're able to counter them. So that's what a lot of the combat has come to now, is hitting Y in cases where you need to defeat the enemy or you're in trouble, automatically killing them or countering them. Just a quick side note, I find it pretty ridiculous too that you can instantly scale any wall. It takes all intensity away from battering through the front gates with your army. All that's gone. You just scale the wall, go in by yourself, kill everything. There's nobody helping you out, which I know isn't the point of Dynasty Warriors, but it's still a little funny to me that you would be able to just scale any wall like Spider-Man without even having to try to break through. If they were actually able to do that so fast in those times, battles would have probably gone a lot differently. The other thing about combat that people may not like is that, sort of similar to Dynasty Warriors 7's system, all characters now have the ability to equip all weapons. Now, certain weapons like Zhao Yun's spear, he's one of my other favorite characters. He's got extra moves that you wouldn't be able to do with any character that just equipped a dragon spear. They're exclusive to Zhao Yun. But all characters being able to equip all weapons makes similar abilities that some of the characters have even more copy and paste than they were before. If you remember Dynasty Warriors 8, there was a lot less similarities between the characters. All of them were unique, and I think that probably had to do with Koei being able to work with that older engine for so long. Now that they're switching to a newer engine, a newer combat system, that may change with some of the newer games, like when Dynasty Warriors 10 comes out, but for now, this is what we're looking at as far as how the characters are structured with their combos and weapons. The other thing is that some of the characters that you're used to having their old school weapons that they've had for all these different versions of Dynasty Warriors no longer have those weapons. So while Zhao Yun still has his dragon spear, one of my other favorite characters from Dynasty Warriors 8, Shu Shu, no longer has his chain sword that he had before. It's now just a regular sword, and while he does carry over some of his moves in a similar fashion from 8, a lot of them are different. So be prepared for that some of your favorite characters may not have the same weapon that they used, and even if they do, their movesets are probably going to be quite a bit different with this new combo system that they have. I know I myself was very disappointed in Zhou Tai. His moves are not very similar to his old moveset. It's a lot slower, and even though he still has his samurai style sword, his combos aren't as fluid as they once were, in my opinion. His slashes aren't as fast, his Mizzou attack isn't as good, so just be prepared for that. Although some characters from past games that you didn't like before with their updated movesets and weapons in this game, you may like now, so it could work both ways on that one. Now, if you guys have watched any of my past videos, you know I'm kind of a stickler for bad voice acting. I would have preferred if they would have just kept the original Japanese voices in here instead of the English, because the English voice acting is very, very bad. It's probably the worst that it's been since Dynasty Warriors 3, if you guys can remember all the way back to that one.
Sir, this is a miracle bestowed upon me by the heavens! Ah!
What are you talking about? Stop spouting such patently ridiculous lies. Country bumpkins like yourself could never defeat their leader.
But we are the Imperial Army. It is only right that we crush such an uprising with superior numbers until the court realizes that and gives us the men we need. One long year and your time has come, man. No marks, no scars, no blemishes on the holster, brother.
Besides some of the side characters and Dong Zhuo sounding like he belongs on Monday Night Raw, some of the other characters don't fare too badly. I'm probably being a little too hard on it, but there's enough bad voice acting here that it is noticeable. I read that some of the guys didn't have a lot of time. I guess there was one of the voice actors on Reddit that came out and said that they weren't given a lot of time to read through their lines, so that may have been some of the issues behind it, but that just shows the most likely rushed production schedule that a lot of aspects of this game have, and it shows especially when you get into the open world aspect of this game, which we'll get into now. So I'd say most of the issues with Dynasty Warriors 9 stem from the open world itself and how it's structured, how it's put together. As you're seeing me do here, I'm running around accepting quests. A lot of the quests that you take on are fairly boring. They don't really add a lot to the experience. They'll give you a little bit of gold, a little bit of experience points to power up your character, but far less than you get from completing the main missions. Most of the items you get aren't really that useful. Some of the later quests give you a few more useful raw materials that you can use to craft weapons and other items. But for the most part, it doesn't really feel like it's time well spent because a lot of the quests are fairly boring. It's just go here, kill this enemy or this animal, go back to the quest giver and move on. It's just like any other role-playing style game or open world game in that respect. But again, the quests don't have enough depth to them. They don't add anything to the story to make them feel really worthwhile doing. In addition to that, you have other side missions that you can complete that do have a little more to do with the main quest. So if you go and rescue a general or kill a certain general, then it'll make the main fight easier. But another problem that comes from this is that the main generals that you have to defeat are usually surrounded by a bunch of assault generals and other smaller officers that you can just run past. You don't even have to fight any of them. You just go defeat the main general, then the rest of the lesser generals just run off and don't even fight you. So a lot of the large-scale battles that Dynasty Warriors is known for aren't even a factor here. At most, you usually fight a few dozen enemies at a time. It's no longer the hundreds of enemies that you can see on the battlefield at any given time. So it really strips the heart and the soul of what Dynasty Warriors is originally about, and it makes it frustrating because you know the game can be more, you know it can do more, but the fact that it revolves around this open world and all these mundane quests strips away a lot of that experience. Not only that, even though you can fast travel amongst a lot of these locations, you spend a lot of time just running around on your horse, not really doing anything but traveling from place to place, going sometimes over 1,000 or 2,000 units of measurement, meters, whatever they're using, to get to the next destination. And the open world is just absolutely barren. There's nothing to do, nothing to see. You might run across a few camps of enemies once in a while. Other than that, it's just item collection. And these items you just find randomly sitting in the woods or the fields, and you use them to craft weapons and items for your character to power them up. Other than that, there's really nothing to do at all in this open world. So that's the biggest issue here, is you're spending way too much time doing side quests that are meaningless and running around traveling from place to place instead of fighting like you should be doing in a normal Dynasty Warriors game. Not only that, but this game can be very glitchy sometimes, especially when you're on your horse. The game still does have some good elements that they added. It's got the weapon crafting, you can level up your characters, you can increase their attribute points and build them how you want to. But the combat, while fun, with the changing of the combo system, just doesn't feel as fun to me as the older games did. Some of your favorite characters you may not even like anymore because they might have changed their weapon or changed the way they did combos. Some you may like more. The open world in concept, a good idea. In practice, not so much. It's pretty much incorporating all the worst aspects of open world games that we've come to hate just the generic, empty open world that doesn't really add anything to the experience, and in fact detracts from it in a lot of cases. And while they do a good job trying to tell the story of Dynasty Warriors 9, I'd say it's told in the most structured way that it ever has been. The characters get more screen time, they get more exposition, you learn more about them. That's marred by the fact that if you want to listen to it in the English voice acting, it is, for the most part, pretty bad. And once you unlock new characters, you can jump to different chapters that those characters are in at any time without going through previous parts of the story. So if you choose to do it in that way and you just want to enjoy the characters, the story isn't going to make much sense because they want to tell it in a fashion where certain characters can't jump back, for example, and fight in the Yellow Turban Rebellion or at Hulao Gate, which are two classic Dynasty Warriors battles. So also expect that going in, as the character selection is going to be very structured, and you also have to go out to the main menu after you finish a chapter before you can select a new character going to the next chapter, which is inconvenient as well. And another important note before I wrap up is there is no multiplayer element in this. There are no couch co-op elements. There are no online components for co-op, so don't expect this to be a co-op experience. You're not going to be able to go in and play with a friend, so that may detract for some people as well. So where does that leave Dynasty Warriors 9? Again, this is a very divisive game, but it is the first one of this generation that's exclusively for this generation, and it unfortunately comes with a lot of those flaws that new gen games typically do, the first of their kind on those consoles and systems. So while they do try new things, a lot of the features from before that people loved are missing, and a lot of the new features that they add are not fully fleshed out. So while I did personally have some fun with this, I cannot recommend this game to Dynasty Warriors fans. New fans may not notice, but I have a feeling people by now, if they have not gotten into this franchise, there's going to be nothing here that's going to convince them to do so. You're mainly going to be trying to please that core fan base that you've built up since the PlayStation 2. But if I were you guys, for $60 I would definitely hold off. I do not feel that this game warrants that much money at this time. I would personally go back and play Dynasty Warriors 8, play some of the other Dynasty Warriors style games like Zelda, Sword of the Berserk, some of the other games that they've made in that vein lately. This one unfortunately does not warrant your dollar. I'm hoping that in Dynasty Warriors 10 they fix a lot of these lingering issues. I think there are some good ideas here, but until they're more fully realized, I don't think that this one is going to be worth your time playing. And again, I really hate to say that because I do love Dynasty Warriors. I don't want to see them go this direction. It sort of reminds me of the way Dynasty Warriors 7 went when they first started off on those consoles at the time. But I feel like they did right the way with Dynasty Warriors 8, and I feel like the same thing's going to happen as they get more time with this engine, and hopefully iron out the graphical issues, the frame rate dips, some of the problems with the combat in the open world. They may go back to the old fighting style again, who knows, but either way I think it is going to be a fairly large improvement over this one. So do yourself a favor, hold out for 10, play some of the older games if you want to get that Dynasty Warriors fix. So that's it for me, guys. Again, this is Arc Flash. Please leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. I will be continuing to release new reviews over the next month as the new games come out. I'm going to be doing a lot of those. So hope you liked the video, and I'll leave some other video links to some of my other reviews down in the description below if you want to check those out as well. So I will see you guys on the next video. Take care. Oh my god, what kind of psycho takes on a bunch of bears with a pair of nunchucks? Jeez.
Think I'd let you get away?
Okay, maybe this game's not so bad after all.